Okay, now here's the update on the Seaburg library unit. I finally got this thing done about 2 weeks ago. And I got it done just in time for our holiday traditions there at the school. Now, the holiday traditions is a craft show, and we typically play Christmas music during that event. Now, as soon as I started getting this thing finished, and as many Christmas records that I've got, 45s, I thought, boy, this thing would be a great thing to take in to use for the holiday traditions. So I got it done just in time, and that's why it's got this kind of Christmas-looking skirt on the table, and that's why the front of it's red and green. This thing originally comes with a fluorescent tube in the front to light the front of it up. And so to give it a kind of a Christmassy look, I ordered, and you can order these tubes that you can slide over your fluorescent tubes that where you can make them collared. And so I ordered a red tube and a green tube, and they come in 4 and 8 foot lengths. And so then you can cut them down to size to whatever size tube you have. If it's not 4 foot or 8 foot, you can cut them to the size that you want. So I cut 2 reds and 2 greens and slid them over the tube so that the inside of the front of this thing would light up green, red and green. And so anyway, I've got the Christmas records in there. I've got like 50 Christmas records, and I've got 50, and it's a mix of 60s, 70s, and 80s music. Because one of the things I remember hearing some of the vendors talk about is that starting about the 1st of November, which is usually our event's the first one, all they hear is Christmas music for the next 2 months. So typically we try to mix it up a little bit so that there it's not like monotonous for everybody where they just continuously hear Christmas music all day long. So I've got enough in here where none of the Christmas songs will repeat, and this thing will run for 7.5 hours before it goes all the way through and all the way back to complete the whole selection that's in there. Now, I did some modifications to this thing here in the back, because the way this thing was originally designed is the way this thing's supposed to work. Now, excuse me, the camera may get a little jiggly because I'm trying to switch hands. Now, the way this thing originally was designed to operate is as soon as you turn this thing on, this thing will start moving instantly, and it'll just continuously just keep going back and forth, continuously playing records until you turn the thing off on the front. Now, I didn't like that too well because I kind of preferred it to be able to start up right down here, start with the first record, go all the way down, then come all the way back, and as soon as it gets done, shut itself off automatic. Now, not the light and not the preamp. I just wanted just the mechanism itself to turn itself off automatically. So what I've done is I've added a couple switches right here. There's 2 switches right here. The bottom switch is for this switch down here. Now, just about everybody's got one of these kind of switches in their house. It's either this type, the push type, or it's a rocker switch. This switch here is a switch that goes in a refrigerator and turns your light off and on. So as soon as you shut your door, you know how the light goes off, it pushes it in. When you open the door, it turns it back on because the switch pops out. Well, that's what I put this in here for. So when I turn this switch here on, when this thing's down here up against this switch, it'll bypass this switch, causing this thing to start up, to start playing a record. And then I flip it back off, and once I do that, this thing will go all the way down, play all the records, come all the way back, and then as soon as it gets done, it pushes this switch, and it turns itself off automatically. Now, if I leave the switch right here, the bottom switch on, then it'll do like it was originally designed. It'll just continuously just keep going back and forth playing the records. Now, the top switch is so I can pause it in the middle of a rack, without having to turn the whole thing off. I can either stop it while it's in the middle of, well, it doesn't stop it right in the middle of playing. What it'll do, when I turn this switch up here into the off position, while this thing's playing, it'll continue to play the record, and as soon as it gets done, ejects the record, it'll automatically turn itself off. Or, if I don't want to wait for the record to end, I can hit the eject switch in the front, which then it'll go ahead and eject the record and turn itself off. So anyway, the preamp right there. Okay, and the other thing I did too, before I get on the preamp, is I added these lights here in the back. There's a red, these are incandescent tubes, these are 1 foot long, and this is what was left over from the fluorescent tubes that I had cut. These were leftovers. So I got a red one here, got a green one over here, because the way this thing's designed is you're supposed to see the front of it over here. But see, this to me I think is the boring part of it, because all you see is just the records there, and you just see a record missing out of a slot, and that's it. You don't really see a whole lot going on, because that's not where the action is. The action's back here. So what I want to do is I want to put this thing in a position in the lobby, in the gym lobby, so that way there you can see this thing actually playing. So you can actually see the front and the back. So I added these lights here in the back of it, so that way there will also light the back side of it up too. So that way there people can also see this thing playing. This will be hooked in the gym lobby, which will then play over the system in the lobby and also in the gym. So anyway, I guess I can give a quick demonstration of it. So we'll go ahead and start the thing up. Now, of course, because of the copyright police, I can't let anything play very long because they may strike the video, so then they may take it off. So anyway, oh. Now, if I flip that top switch off, right up here, this thing will continue to play until it gets done with the record and it'll turn itself off. Now I'm going to try to hold the camera, stretch my arm out here. Now if I don't want it to wait till the record gets done, I can try to, I can eject the record, if I can find the button here. Eject it, and it turns itself off automatic until I turn the switch back on. Then it'll start back up, go to the next record. Now if I've got the bottom switch turned off, what the thing will do, like I mentioned, is about it pushing this switch here. Once it comes up, hits this switch, it'll automatically stop itself. So I'll push the switch in so that way there it'll come all the way back to the beginning. I don't know if I can do it right or not here. It turns itself off automatic. I hope you got that on the video because I couldn't see my camera or the viewfinder because I was sitting on or off to the side of the camera. So now to restart it, I just push this back on just briefly. It'll start it back up. I can shut it back off. It'll go down, play all the records, return back, hit that switch again, turns itself back off.
You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen.
So anyway, that's the video on this thing for right now. Okay, now for the second part of this video. Now the second part is about the table and how I can get this thing in and out of the car by myself in order to take it to the school for holiday traditions and bring it back home. Because when I first got this thing, I could not, this thing here weighs about as much as I do. This thing weighs about 115 pounds. So in order for me to get this thing out of the car, I had to take the front door off, I had to take this off, and I had, in order to be able to grab a hold up here, then grab a hold back here so I can try to get the thing up out of the car and then get it slid down the back end, because the car I've got is a hatchback, and slide it down onto the dolly so that I can get it into the house. Which it was very heavy and very hard to do, but now with the thing being redone, because the cabinet, now it's been refinished, because before it was painted red, it had a bunch of scratch marks in it, and the guy that refinished it, he said when he stripped it off, some of these dark marks that are in the wood through here, he said these appeared to be cigarette burn marks. But anyway, they had painted it red and it was all scratched up and everything, so he refinished the whole thing. So I didn't want to scratch this thing up and all that, just trying to get this thing in and out of the car. So what I did is I measured the car, the height from the ground up to the level part of where the back door closes, and it came up to about 27 inches. So I made this table here. It's got wheels at the bottom down here. I put a shelf down here at the bottom for support, and got the four wheels down here, and this thing here is the same height as the car. So now inside the car, of course, it would dip down once you got over the opening of the door. So I made another little wooden platform about the same size as this that's inside the car. So now what I can do is I can take this thing here, I can wheel it out to the car, I can butt this end of the table here to the back of the car, and then this thing here, because I sanded the top of this thing to be real smooth, that way there I can take this thing, I can just push it straight off, straight into the car, onto the other platform that's inside, and then I can just fasten this thing down. Then the table itself, I can just take the table, flip it over, and stick it in through the back seat, and then that way there I can make this thing more portable. And then when I get over there to the event, then I just do the exact opposite. I put this thing back behind the car. The wheels have locks on them, so that way there I can lock the wheels down, so that way there the thing won't move. All four wheels have locks on them. And then I just do the reverse. I just take the thing and I just slide it back out onto the table. Now, in order to hide the table and all that, I made the skirt. I went over to, I think it was Hobby Lobby, I think it was. Or no. Yeah, I think it was Hobby Lobby. And anyway, I found this material that kind of had a Christmassy type theme, because what I was going to do is I was going to just get a tablecloth to put over the top of this. The problem is, if I'm moving this thing across the top of it, I'm either going to tear it up and it's not going to line up right. So I found material, so I came up with the idea to get some Christmassy looking material and then just put an elastic band through it, so that way there the thing just slides off and onto the unit. So that way there I can just, as soon as I get it to the event, I can just take the thing and I can just slide it right over the top of it. And since I've got this little gap in between here, it can just fit right up inside there, so that way there the table is then hidden. I also made another one that's just kind of a maroonish collar, it's just a plain collar that I can put around here, so that way there when I've got it sitting over there along the wall there, it'll just, that way there you're not seeing all this down here. So I actually made two skirts. There was just a plain colored one, then I made this Christmassy looking one. So that way there I can just kind of hide everything. And I'll probably have these, because this is all the Christmas records right here. I'll probably have some of these, this is where I'm going to transport the records in. Is in these old disco cases. I'm going to have those up underneath the table. But I'll have that thing pulled all the way around so you don't see them. But that's how, because I'm going to take all these records out, put them in that, transport this thing. Once I get it back into the, and then when I get this into the lobby, I'm going to snap that thing back on around it, the skirt, put the skirt around it, then take all those records and load them back in. And then that way there, this thing will be ready to go for the holiday traditions. I'll probably take it a day early and then leave it in my office, and then when the day comes, I'll just wheel it out into the lobby, hook it up, and they'll be ready to go. So anyway, that's my video on the Seeburg Library Unit. So thank you for watching.